Do you often find yourself playing music and thinking that you sound really bad? Well, it's totally possible that your playing is actually a lot better than you realise. In this video, I'll explain exactly what's going on here, and knowing this is going to leave you feeling more relaxed about your playing, and you'll stay more motivated, and you'll just end up enjoying your music much more. Now, I'm not saying that your playing is totally amazing already and that you never need to practice again. Sorry, but that's just not realistic. So you do still need to be getting feedback on where you are right now and then using that feedback to identify what to work on to get better. And I've made videos on both those topics, so I'll put links in the description below. But what it is about is being happy with where you are right now, while at the same time still knowing that you could get better and wanting to make that journey. But what it isn't is just feeling that you're not good enough right now. So that feeling to become better is a compulsion, something you've got to do because where you are right now just isn't okay. Now, there are four main reasons why your playing might actually be better than you believe it is while you're actually playing. And the first of these is that you literally hear differently when you are playing music. Because what's going on here is music is a complicated thing. It takes really a huge amount of your brain power to conceive of the music that you're going to make those physical motions, to get the sound out of your instrument or your voice. And so a huge amount of the processing power of your brain that would normally be there in use when you're just sitting and listening to music and doing nothing is totally taken up with the, frankly, more important part of creating the music in the first place. So the sounds that you hear are coming into your ears just the same, but the way that your brain registers them is actually completely different when you're playing than when you're just sitting and listening. Now, this doesn't guarantee that it's actually better than you think it is when you're playing and listening to what you're doing. Sometimes your playing is better than you think, sometimes it might be worse than you think, and sometimes it's about right, because this happens sometimes. But more often than not, I find people are overly critical about their playing, and so it's not an unreasonable bet to suggest that actually your playing is better than you feel it is in the moment. And whether better or worse, you just need to know that it is a really unreliable judgment. So however it makes you feel, if you feel I'm playing really well or I'm playing really badly, no, that's not helpful right now. The only way you can really get a handle on that is to go back and listen to a recording afterwards. So that was the first reason. The second one is that your brain cannot process all the information coming to it anyway, even if you're just sitting and listening. So it sets up filters, particular things to look out for, and it's much more likely to pull out the data on those than all the other data. So what does this mean? It means that if you're concerned with mistakes, then any mistakes you make are going to jump out at you and be really obvious in what you hear. Whereas a lot of the good stuff is just going to pass by and be accepted as, well, this is less important, because those filters, remember, are looking at the mistakes. And this is a really common place for musicians to be in. We're concerned about making mistakes. That pops out at us and we get a really skewed picture of what we're hearing, because the mistakes are much, much more prominent in what we notice than all the good things that we're also doing. And if you want to know the science behind this, you can look into something called the reticular activating system, or RAS, which is the technical explanation for what's going on here. But what it really means is that you might have this really skewed view of what's going on. And this really exaggerating the importance of mistakes is particularly prominent if you are in a practice mindset a lot of the time. And so, when we're practicing, we're looking out for mistakes because we want to improve things. If you carry that over into when you're performing, then you've still got that filter which is just flashing up all the mistakes to you and playing down all the really great stuff that you're also doing. And the third reason why your playing might actually be a lot better than you feel it is because we tend to take for granted 99% of the work that we've already done over the years, because that's what we've been working on then. We feel like we've got that. And so if we execute that pretty well, that's just taken for granted. Whereas someone who's listening to us it all sounds good. So our attention tends to be on that 1% of things that we're currently working on, we're currently trying to improve. And as a result, we'll tend to judge how well we're playing on, am I really executing those recent things I'm working on really well? And if I am, great, I'll judge that as a success. And if I'm not, well, that's when I tend to think, oh, I'm just not getting it right. Whereas there's that whole 99% underneath that, all the things we've worked on in the past that are now really solid, that we're not giving us any credit for. And this is similar to that prominence thing, the things we filter in and filter out. But this is less that they don't come into the mind and more how we judge success. Basically, we're judging on a very, very small part of what we're doing, simply based on what are our priorities right now. And that can blind us to the fact that all the other stuff we've done over the years is still really valuable, still makes great music, still sounds fantastic. And finally, the fourth reason why we might actually be playing a lot better than we think we are is that we have a habit of categorizing the things that we can already do as easy and the things that we can't do as hard, based purely on the fact that this is what we can and can't do. If you try something that you've never practiced before, it's going to feel hard, of course it is. Whereas if you try something that you've practiced a million times and you're really solid on, it's going to feel easy. But that doesn't mean that that is the relative categorization of those things. To someone else who'd spent ages practicing that thing you couldn't do, that you find hard, they'll find that one easy, and the one that you can do that they haven't practiced, that might feel hard to them. But what this means is we sit there, we're really familiar with our own playing. We may play the same pieces again and again and again. If we're improvisers, we might come out with the same phrases again. And so we start to think, oh, that's easy, it doesn't count, or this is boring, I've heard myself play this so many times. And we forget that any listener is going to be sitting there, hearing it for the first time, and just judging it for what it is. And it's going to sound great, perhaps. So just remember that you may be downplaying how difficult, how fresh all the things you play are because you're used to them, and so they just feel easy to you, or they just feel cliched or boring to you. But that's not the same to someone else who's just listening to you for the first time. Is that something that you find for yourself? You constantly feel that what you're playing is easy or boring because you've played it over and over again? If so, just let me know by leaving a comment below. And so try to avoid judging what you're playing while you're doing it, because as you've seen, it's a really unreliable measure of how good it actually is. And so if you can just be in the moment and just play what you're playing right now, you'll play better and you'll enjoy things more. And if you'd like to know more about how the world's top athletes and musicians deliberately build their self-confidence while still chasing constant improvement, then check out my video on that next. And if you'd like to go deeper into this area, then check out my course, Unlock Your Performance. It has a complete system for strengthening your self-belief, exercises to help you play your best every time, and much more. I'll put a link to it in the description below. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Please click below to subscribe if you haven't already, and while you're down there, why not hit the share button to pass this video on to other musicians. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.